I think because the show had never really taken off, there was a kind of a underlying disquiet, and why hasn't, and I think in Ellen's mind, that sort of flowed with where she was politically and in terms of her own personal life, and she really came to feel that she needed to do something big for the show, and she needed to do something big in her own life that she couldn't.
So those two things were converging simultaneously.
They were. I'm speculating to some extent, but I think they were converging simultaneously, and that was my sense of it at the time, and as a result, I think it resulted in the day when she called me up and said, "Can I come in and talk to you?" And I said, "Sure." And she came into my office, and the fourth floor of the Disney building, and she said, at the beginning of the summer, she said, "I want to come out on the TV show. I want my character to come out." And I said, "Well, that'll be interesting." And we talked about it for some length. So I didn't commit at the time because I knew it's hard to look back now and think about what a big deal it was, because it all seems like such a joke that we could all think it was such a big deal then, but it was a big deal, and particularly for the Walt Disney Company to be involved in that was a big deal, and I understood that from the moment she said that.
Yeah, what's the first phone call you make when she leaves your office?
Well, the first phone call was to Michael, and saying, I gotta come and talk to you, and Michael's response was, "No way," and I felt differently about it. I thought, I took a day or two and I thought about it, and I wound up feeling differently about it. I thought that, first of all, that it was good for the show, because I didn't know where the show was going. We couldn't find the heartbeat of the show. Hadn't succeeded yet. Something had to be done, otherwise it was just going to peter out this year and go away. So I felt just from a showmanship standpoint, there would be something needed to happen, so that was good. And then just personally, I just felt that it was right, and I felt that it was right for her, that she needed to do it to continue to perform, and that if we didn't do it, there would be no Ellen, basically. That she'd crossed the river. She was on the other side now, and she wasn't coming back. And there was nothing that you could say other than okay, or you're fired. And those are the two things you could really say. There wasn't anything like, well, we're just going to keep doing the show. It just didn't seem possible to me. And so I decided that I would support her and doing it, and I thought it was the right thing to do. And I told her that I would, and I told Michael. I said, no,
And what about the network?
The network was next, and they were, they weren't supportive. They were. Stewart was, Bloomberg, and they were politically supportive. That kind of, which is easy for anybody to be, because after all, who wants to beat up on lesbians? You know what I mean? But they weren't really supportive. They didn't want to do it. They were worried about the public controversy. They're very, very resistant, and which is not really surprising if you sort of think about where networks have been traditionally in these kinds of issues. They don't want the problems with advertisers, and they're worried about their advertisers. And it's hard to blame them. They had reason to worry about their advertisers. So they didn't want to do it. And it just led to months of negotiating. I won't say negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate ultimately, but I kept driving it forward, and Ellen kept driving it forward, because I think the same thing that became clear to me became clear to everybody else, which is that there was only two choices. You could do the show that Ellen wanted to do, or you could fire Ellen and shut down the show. There wasn't going to be putting anything. The toothpaste wasn't going back into the tube.